The Chancellor plots tax raid on savers as ISA allowance could be halved in major shake-up. Yes, and by major shake-up, what she means is she's going to turn you all into degenerate gamblers. Just like the Labour government. What can possibly go wrong? Right, obviously this is the story of the day. Everybody's talking about it because it's disgraceful and stupid and wrong-headed, and essentially the government want to stop you from saving for a rainy day, because that's terrible advice, isn't it? Everyone who's ever heard the advice on the granny's knee, make sure you save for a rainy day, son. No, that's terrible advice. No, ignore your granny. Listen instead to the thickest woman to ever hold the briefcase. In fact, she's the only one. She's hardly going to be a trailblazer for a gender equity, is she? Because once she gets done, nobody's going to have a pot to piss in. But before I read this story, I'm going to quickly segue into Bridget Phillipson, because she's going to need a clip of her own. Honestly, it brings me no pleasure to rip the piss out of someone from the northeast, but I'm going to have to do it, because let me tell you, in a very short period of time, she's graduated from thick as whale spunk to thick as dehydrated whale spunk. Took her no time at all. So well done, Bridget. She's been getting tortured on X lately. Here she is in Grove Park this evening. First things first, I just want to reassure anybody who sees this photo. Grove Park isn't in Sunderland. No, it is actually in London. For a moment there, I thought Sunderland had been entirely colonised by foreigners, but I've been assured that Sunderland's only about, 20% recently imported third world men with a lob on. So, it's not as bad as I first thought. But still, she's put some absolute guff online in the last few days. Here's one of my favourites, look. Campaigns are about bringing people together, championing our values and facing down our real opponents. And for me, they're fuelled by Iron Brew. Yeah, brilliant. There she is with a can of sugar-free Iron Brew, the one that smells like shite. I don't know how they make it, what ungodly process they used to make sugar-free Iron Brew. But apparently, you can be an outright traitor to your people. You can sell your country down the river. You can be a completely clueless, out-of-touch, wonky-faced, brain-dead quisling, but as long as you hold a can of Iron Brew in front of 4 Millbank while an aide takes your photo, you're definitely totally in touch with normal working-class people from the northeast. Shut up, Bridget. And here's another good one. They're really pushing the working-class hero shite, aren't they? Here's me and my granddad. His family and my grandma's came over from Ireland. He served in the Royal Air Force. Both of them trained as nurses, helping build the NHS. Everything they say is just a trite cliche, isn't it? Helping build the NHS. What, you mean formerly one of the best, now definitely one of the worst socialised medical systems in the entire developed world? Oh, nice one. Thanks for that. I'm the granddaughter of immigrants. Stories like theirs are part of our national story. I'll never forget that. Okay, did you get that? Yeah, she's the granddaughter of immigrants from Ireland. From Ireland? They're not even classed as immigrants, are they? As far as I'm aware, under the Common Travel Agreement, they're not even classed as immigrants. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to fill out any paperwork, register anywhere. They just move, just buy a house. I don't think there's any inconveniences upon their time at all. So they're not even classed as immigrants, not really. Plus, what's the argument here? They moved across the Irish Sea, 40 mile? They moved 40 mile from a country ethnically, genetically and, historically linked totally with England. Because back in the day, we were all part of Britain anyway. And because of that, because your granddad moved 40 mile, right, we should what? Have unlimited, unending third world men moving to the UK? Is that the argument these people are making? Me granddad moved from County Kerry, therefore have a Somalian pirate living in your spare room. Makes loads of sense, especially when one of them, a Rwandan, knifed a load of little girls in the face. How many Irish immigrants have done that? And don't even think about bringing up pirate, because at least they used to just, politely leave a bomb in a bin and then phone the police. They didn't used to go into little girls' dance classes. That type of shit is completely unheard of, and it only seems to come from third world So don't be telling me that because Bridget's granddad moved 40 miles from a country that used to be part of the British Empire, that we should therefore open our borders to an unlimited wave of angry, hairy-ass men with big floppy cocks. It's a terrible idea, Bridget, and if you had two brain cells to rub together, you'd know this, wouldn't you? Anyway, she's getting a clip. I'm gonna make one for her. Leave it with me. Now, on to the story at hand. Why did I say that the Chancellor was forcing us to be degenerate gamblers? And it's been a while since you've had a clip, so I'll use a name for a change. Chancellor Rachel Reeves.
She's a spastic.
Is understood to be floating a major shake-up to the tax regime, which could impact Britain's savings and generate further revenue for HMRC. Yeah, because we're all about making more money for HMRC. We can't get enough of them, can we? Treasury officials are conducting a discussion with financial institutions about reducing the annual cash ISA allowance from 20,000 to 10,000 as the Chancellor prepares to announce significant reforms in her autumn budget. Under the rumoured changes, the Chancellor is aiming to redirect billions in savings towards domestic equities, with Miss Reeves seeking to establish an American-style investment culture in Britain. God. Sources familiar with the discussions indicate the Treasury is examining a potential 10 grand yearly limit for cash ISAs while maintaining the overall 20 grand ISA ceiling. Two things to point out. First of all, this is yet more backtracking from the Labour government because if you don't remember, yeah, there it is. Back in July, they said they were going to do this. And there was a massive backlash. So they said, okay, we won't do it. And then typical Labour, they wait like a few months, a paltry few months, and then go, suck my left knacker, we're doing it anyway. Typical Labour. And why was there a backlash? You might ask if you're not, a finance guru and you don't really pay attention to these type of things. Well, I'll explain it in very simplistic terms. This legislation penalises risk-averse people who don't like gambling in the stock market. Like your granny used to keep all of her money in a biscuit tin, and then you'd say, come on, granny, put it in a tax-free ISA instead. No need to keep it there. Well, what they're doing here is halving it, but maintaining the ceiling. So you can only keep 10 grand in cash, but then you've got to invest the rest. And the big difference here, when they say this, American-style investment culture, the reason American-style investment culture works really well is because American companies still maintain a veneer, at least an attempt, of keeping the company as a meritocracy. I work for a big American Globotron. It's hard work. They performance manage you very aggressively, and if you suck, you get sacked. That's why American companies still make money. But in the UK, if you're going to start gambling with your money with British companies, where the more of an incompetent moron you are, the more likely you are to get promoted. If you think it's a good idea investing in companies like that, I've got a bridge to sell you. In fact, invest in my company. It's called Angry Bootneck Chocolate Teapot and Fireguard Co. Yeah, we're going to make a fortune. The Chancellor's team has confirmed that reducing the cash ISA allowance remains under active consideration. The fact they've admitted it's under consideration means it's happening. So suck on it, poor people. Though they emphasise multiple proposals are being evaluated. Shut up, you lying sack of rats. These reform efforts encountered significant opposition during the summer when building societies cautioned that cash ISA deposits help finance mortgage lending and any reduction could potentially increase borrowing costs for homeowners. So degenerate gambler culture is the order of the day, and they're going to force you, if you want to try and save some money, to throw it in the stock market in a bunch of British companies who don't operate as a meritocracy, yeah? The thickest bloke on the floor gets promoted because they're desperately trying to get him off the floor, but they can't fire him. So your next thing, Mungo's your boss. You're carrying everybody on the floor because you're the only one who's actually capable of doing work. And there's about 9 or 10 of your co-workers who are about as much use as a nun's tits. That's the average British company. My first job when I left the military was working for the council, and let me tell you, that was an eye-opener. Yeah, there was a bloke there who used to go off sick for 6 months a year, every year. When I started, he said, oh, my wife had a miscarriage. Apparently, that was his go-to excuse that he used every year. This was explained to me by the long-term employees. And if you just say that every year, you get 5 months and 29 days off at full pay. Imagine that being a rule. But apparently that's how it works if you work for the government in the UK. And then he'd come back and he'd work for another 6 months and then he'd use the same excuse because it's emotive and a manager's not going to question it, is he? Because he'll feel guilty. Well, I questioned it. Because after he did it, I'd been there like a year and he did it for the second time and I'd been assured it occurred every year for the last 10. I said to him, listen, you ginger boss-eyed mutant, if your wife's had that many miscarriages, God does not want you to breed. And looking at the clip of you and your honking, wonky-faced missus who always comes to pick you up from work with half of a breakfast down the front of a shirt, God doesn't want you to breed and neither do I, because you'll be carrying that baby out in a bucket. You absolute freak. This is the world we live in. The UK is an anti-meritocracy. It's a meritocratic black hole. That's why the Chancellor is an absolute simpleton. The Deputy Prime Minister has got the IQ of a pork pie. And the Home Secretary, who's in charge of like safety and security for all the British people, is basically Osama bin Laden's fluffer. That's how bad it's got in the UK. In fact, I haven't picked on her today, so let's give Shabsy a bat, shall we? The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood,
some of it was fun,
is basically one bad day away from being the next shoe bomber. Okay, so that's how bad it's got in the UK. It's a meritocratic black hole and they want to drag you all down with them. Don't save for a rainy day, rip up the rule book, don't listen to what your grandparents told you, be a degenerate gambler. Here, invest in a company ran by a raving lunatic like that taffia-wearing council-head soy boy, that Dale Vince we always see all over the bloody internet. Invest in his companies. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Trust me, don't do it. Don't do it. Keep your money in a biscuit tin. That's how bad the UK is now. And we're going back to the 50s. Invest your money by sticking it in a old can of Yorkshire tea and stowing it under your bed. Because if you invest in anything, when the Labour government's in charge, you're going to lose the lot. And on the off chance you make any money, they're going to steal it off you. So, yep, stuff it in your mattress, stick it in a biscuit tin. Don't be a degenerate gambler. This is how bad things have got in the UK. And remember, it's all downhill from here. Think of that. Think of that. They've only been in charge 15 months. It gets much worse from here. So, buckle up, boys and girls. Remember what I told you? If you're not storing up on supplies and legal weaponry, you should be. And get 4 or 5 new locks put on your doors as well. Because when all of the guests get the welfare payments stopped, I can see the next big dust up in the UK making the LA riots look like a picnic. So, buckle up, lads and lasses. All right? Thanks for tuning in. If you disagree and you think everything's going to be fine and dandy, the Chancellor's an absolute living legend and she definitely can count past 10 without taking her shoes off. Please let me know in the comments, all right? Because you're obviously as daft as her. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.